about hearing the news about current events. Nowadays, we are surrounded by the media and we have quicker access to hear the news about police brutality. If you come across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feeds, you'll see someone posting a viral video or sharing it about a police officer physically hurting someone because of their skin color. The past events represent several incidents in the last decades that has to do with police officer targeting its victims. And a lot of police misconduct is involved too. This can lead to loss of justice and bring discriminations among others, where a person can feel stigma in a certain group. When a person is victimized by the issue of police violence, they may feel afraid or not confident enough to speak up unless there are other groups of people who have also been victimized. If people acknowledge this gives them a chance to speak out against those that violated them. The perspective on police violence focuses on cases of unarmed people who are defenseless. This grabs my attention because our country is meant to protect its citizens with human rights and dignity. By the end of my speech, my audience will have more knowledge on how police brutality affects victims and families, and how individuals face racial profiling and police misconduction. First, I'll talk about how police brutality impacts people's lives. Then I'll talk about how minorities are targeted by cops. And finally, I'll look at officers violating the Constitution. As you see in this picture, it shows a peaceful protest during the NFL national anthem. The kneeling shows attention for police brutality against victim shootings. Sometimes when an officer loses control of their authority, it creates a situation such as the LA riot, which is the bottom right picture. This event took place in 1992. It brought together over 200 people, including factory workers, teachers, retired military men and women, demanding no more abuse of our rights and dignity. Overall, police brutality does a huge effect in our society. According to journalist and English professor at Northwest County, Dale Jennings wrote in the LA Riot article, "We are the little band of our future will celebrate." Now that I talked about how police brutality makes a huge situation in our society, I will talk about discrimination. Now, discrimination happens every day across the world. The law enforcement targets people of color and searches them without evidence of criminal activity. And the New York Times website responses to a young black male whose name was Eric Garner, who is the gentleman on the right. He was brutally choked to death by a New York police officer, Daniel Patalio. He held him in a fatal chokehold to the point where he could no longer breathe. This graphic video was captured on a cell phone and played repeatedly through various news outlets, receiving national attention from across the world. Many people were devastated, including his friends, neighbors, family, and the whole community came out and to support him and protest to seek justice of the death of Eric Gardner. Additionally, a lot of police misconduct is happening a lot in this world. According to Spectator Neil Jarvinshire, who works on literature criticism, wrote in her article, "Police Officers Gone Bad." "We like to think we have the cleanest police in the world. We may no longer be right. Imagine you live in a country which last year had 3,000 allegations of police corruption. Worse, imagine that these 3,000 allegations were properly investigated. Because for police officers in this world, sadly, corruption is becoming a routine from generation to generation. The police doesn't only break down criminals, but those who dare to speak out against them. Also, the law enforcement fails to recognize the Fourth Amendment, which prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures." Now, coming to my conclusion, I've explained how police brutality affects society as a whole, the way people of color are being falsely accused, and how the police violate its regulations. I like to share a famous quote from Martin Luther King. He once said that the silence of the good people is more dangerous than the brutality of the bad people.